Welcome to this short Crohn's disease update. Since I published my video on Crohn's back in July, I decided to go back to the literature over the past 7 months and see what new data has been published since, or if I missed something previously. Well, I have 4 new references here, which not shockingly reinforce some of the key points from my initial video, and in fact, reinforce points across many of my videos as the themes are the same. If you have not seen my original video, you can find it somewhere around here and the links in the description. Our first paper highlights a crucial key to understanding disease, gut permeability. In fact, I have a whole video dedicated to this very important concept. Additionally, it's a concept I bring up often in my videos. When you have dysbiosis, an imbalance between the good and bad bugs in your gut, one of the consequences is inflammation-driven openings in your gut lining. This is how problematic agents from the gut can go systemic, affecting your health in non-gut tissues in ways you could not imagine before my videos. There are several ways to measure gut permeability, and here we have a classic one, via the lactulose-mannitol excretion ratio. Bottom line is that, not surprisingly, these researchers found that there was significantly more gut permeability, aka leaky gut, in the Crohn's subjects as compared to healthy controls. An indirect measure of the extreme dysbiosis in Crohn's, which I cover in detail in my initial video. And from this recently published 2024 paper, we have an example of FMT, fecal microbiota transfer, in Crohn's. FMT is a great example of how we can show that by changing out the microbiome, disease can be impacted for the better. In fact, I have a whole video dedicated to FMT, which should help you to understand the power of the microbiome. As this is a new paper, this is neither in my previously published videos on Crohn's nor FMT. If we look at figure A, we see this pink color, which represents the abundance of a bacterium I always mention, F. Probiotics. You can see how the FMT significantly change its abundance as you go from left to right, looking at its baseline value in Crohn's patients before FMT, the dramatically higher levels seen in the donors, and how in the post-FMT subjects its abundance is a bit less than the donors, but much higher than it was to start. F. Probiotics is a key player in the health of the microbiome and is the poster child for all other health promoters. You can get a much better idea of how it and others like it help from my video dedicated to it. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and recommend to friends and family. Also, if you're feeling extra generous, hit the super thanks below. And from the same paper, in figure D, we see a breakdown between the subjects who responded to FMT, defined as a decrease in their Crohn's Activity Index score of greater than 100 points, versus those who were non-responders. Response is basically determined by what level the new microbiome was able to take up residence in the new GI tract. I talk more in this concept in my video on FMT, but to return to figure D, we see significant differences in the populations of key bacteria between the two groups. Another poster child of the microbiome, the evil twin of F. Probiotics, is E. coli, a name with which we are all familiar. It is represented by this green color. You can see a marked difference between those who responded and those who did not. This classic opportunistic pathogen was significantly higher in the non-responders. If we compare what we just saw to my comprehensive meta-analysis of all published original research studies comparing the human fecal microbiome of Crohn's subjects versus that of healthy controls, we see things line up perfectly. We see how the superhero F. Probiotics, which was so beneficial in the new FMT paper, is always significantly higher in healthy controls versus Crohn's. And on the flip side, we see how the classic opportunistic pathogen E. coli, which was so elevated in the non-responders, is always significantly higher in Crohn's versus healthy controls. And we can see my previous microbial fingerprint play out here once again in this paper from 2023. Now this figure A is not healthy controls versus active Crohn's, so does not qualify for my data, Instead, this is quiescent Crohn's without symptoms versus quiescent Crohn's with symptoms. Quiescence, think latent, was defined by a fecal calprotectin score of less than 150 micrograms per gram, which I think is a bit high. There are a lot of active Crohn's patients who have less than 150. In any event, you can see many of the usual suspects I always discuss at play here. In the bad guy category in red, which signifies significantly higher in the symptoms group, we see familiar names like Klebsiella, Streptococcus, Enterococcus, Fusobacterium, Veillonella, and yes, E. coli. Whereas in blue, we see some of our usual health promoters significantly decreased in the symptomatic versus non-symptomatic. Names you know by now like Luminococcus, Carpococcus, Eubacterium, Roseburia, Subdologranulum, Acilibacter, and yes, F. Prozitzii. It is these players and a few others who are at the root cause of not only Crohn's, but if you watch my videos, much of the disease we may experience. And for our last new paper, speaking of fecal calprotectin, in this gut permeability study, the median calprotectin score was 149. So if we compare this to our previous paper, half of these active IBD patients would have been classified as quiescent or latent. In any event, in this paper, the objective was to look at markers of gut inflammation and permeability in IBD as it relates to depression. They did this because when it comes to gut dysbiosis, of which IBD is a classic example, mood is strongly affected, as evidenced by the high rates of anxiety and depression in IBD and other diseases with gut inflammation. You can learn more about this in my video entitled Anxiety and Depression, the Gut-Brain Connection. These researchers found that calprotectin, a marker of gut inflammation, was significantly correlated with depression, as was LBP, which if you're not familiar with my video stands for LPS binding protein, a marker for gut permeability. The idea being here is that pro-inflammatory compounds such as LPS from E. coli we've highlighted so much in this video make their way to the brain to drive inflammation. If you're not familiar with my videos, I know this is a lot of new information for you. But as you watch more of them, these names will begin to sink in, and you'll understand how the health of your microbiome is a huge factor both within and outside of your gut. The information I presented here from our 4 new papers only serves to bolster all the evidence, not only from my initial Crohn's video, but from all of my videos. The same themes pop up over and over again. I have included in one way or another over 1,000 research papers in my videos. Nowhere else will you find this depth of analysis. If this is too dense for you, I understand. But as the microbiome expert, this is how I am able to communicate to you scientifically what's going on inside of your body. Not only is my perspective unique, but so are my solutions. For example, I don't recommend fermented foods, or probiotics, wacky diets, or excessive bug killing. Watch more of my videos, and when you feel comfortable with what you've seen, I invite you to visit my website and get yourself a protocol or schedule a consultation with me. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe. Also, somewhere around here, you can go to my website where you can schedule a consultation with me. You can also view the protocols, and here you can watch the next video.